I think
You're
is,
on top because you're the top. You're the cat's pajamas.
well, you're on top for me because you're the bees.
We're both switches. Whatever. Um,
Talking to a person, who could it be? It's TBD with IRV.
hello, beautiful being. And welcome to another episode of TBD with IRV. I'm your host, Isabella Vergun. Today we have a very super special guest. It's Lindsey Sampson, songstress, musician, songwriter, all around badass. And we're going to talk a little about, her work, visiting wine, the way we knew each other when we were children, disaster theater. It's going to be fun. Hi, Lindsey.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me on my new format. I know that I'm going to see if I can wear my glasses on this format for at least part of it. I'm blind now. Did you know this?
I am too.
Yeah.
I have these grandmotherly blue light glasses, which is how I really feel like
I actually got the blue light glasses, but then I dropped them in a river and I couldn't afford to replace them. So now all my glasses are regular. I'm going to do this once in a while, like I'm my mother at a restaurant.
Where's the menu? It's interesting that you would lose blue light glasses in a river because I don't traditionally think of that being the place that you're threatened by blue light.
Yeah, here's the thing. So, it was when I had gotten, it was my first pair of glasses ever, and I need them to see mostly. And they're like, oh, we can add this like blue light thing to it. I was like, that's tight, amazing. They're like, free upgrade. I was like, give it to me. And then I was in the river, and it was the Platte River, so it's like not deep, it's like this deep, but it goes really fast, and it's also all like muddy. In my effort to not, well, I took my phone and my glasses into the river. I was like, you know what? I bet
better than it getting stolen on the shore.
that's literally what I thought. I was like, if I leave it on the shore, like someone's just gonna take them. My glasses.
Instead, the river will be the thief now.
Yeah, it was really sad. And then I had to I was in the car just like in shock on the way home. My roommate's like, it's good. Or not my roommate. We don't live together. My friend Emma and I were like, she's like, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna get new glasses. I was like, it's my first glasses. I've only had them for like 2 months. I'm a bad mother. But anyway, Lindsey, when did you first find your love of music? I'm like,
whoa.
I've been talking to a lot of people about how there are these kind of 2 points with a lot of creative work, which is when you were like, oh, I love this, like as a kid, or you have kind of that thing, but also a moment in more adulthood where you're like, and this is what I want to do with my life. And so talking about either and or both of those, I'd be happy to hear it.
I think there was not necessarily a moment in childhood, but like music was just infused through like as far back as I can remember in its many different forms, from like church choir as a small child to musicals to the, bananas subcultural world that is college a cappella, like all of the things. And it was always something that was sort of like a non-negotiable, like this, it's going to be through my whole like life. It's just going to be part of it. But I didn't really have, it didn't take one form.
Yeah.
And then I think there was a moment a couple of years ago where it was like, it was probably like my last year of college where I realized it came to my attention that I'm like a small projects person and I do lots of little things. And I sort of came to this realization of like, oh, if I do all of these little projects, I will never be great at anything. I will just be like kind of passable at a lot of things. I was doing like painting and calligraphy and music and whatever and all this stuff, which was very fun. But there was a point where I was like, oh, if I finished my life only being like only really investing my time and my love and my energy into one of these things, it'd be music, full stop.
Yeah.
And so it was like a specific moment of like, I am now diverting, like this pie has now gone from being divided into a bunch of things to like
Music.
this is now the pie.
This is the pie. Yeah, that's so funny because I kind of had to do the opposite in terms of like my pie was always writing.
Mm-hmm.
Big and it came into screenwriting like in college. But now I don't like well I don't I'm not I'm hesitant to say I don't like to write anymore. But you know like writing is work and so I feel like I've started this show and then I started doing tiny shitty paintings and stuff because I'm like I need other things to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it is true that it ends up taking enough of your time where I'm like, oh, on my website, I need to make it really clear I'm a writer. Otherwise, it just looks like I'm a nonsense person. Like I'm just who's this asshole who's like released an album this year and also is doing a fucking show and also makes tiny shitty paintings. Like,
right.
But no, you and I have been into music. I mean, you used to come to our family jams all the goddamn time. That was classic.
Truly like one of my favorite childhood memories.
Truly. And that was I think both of us growing up in musical environments. When you were at home, like is your family also kind of musical or they just encourage it? What was the situation with that?
I think it was actually, they aren't musical at all. And both my brother and I have grown up to be incredibly musical. Like he's in a band in Texas, I'm in a band in Boston. And we, like both of my parents are always just sort of like,
Yeah. Wow, where'd that come from?
Yeah, like this must have skipped a generation somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think it was a really safe thing as a kid because my parents couldn't help. They couldn't encourage or discourage. They couldn't point me in a specific direction. They didn't really have a style of music that was like, our family listens to the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
It was just sort of like, my parents listen to the radio and my dad likes Garth Brooks. But like, I felt no pressure to like do it a certain way, which I think was actually really helpful.
No, I think that's nice. And then, you know, it was, I don't know if Maddie and I ever felt pressure to do things a certain way, but definitely it was interesting being like, okay, like mom sings, dad plays guitar, like what are you gonna do?
Ooh, yeah.
And not in terms of like, I don't think we ever felt forced to do music, but there is something about like having your parents both be good musicians where it's like, oh, I also want to be a good musician. Like, what if I'm the only person who's not? But like my mom and my brother and I are all at some point releasing albums this year. So like,
it's so exciting.
Really cool. That's been really cool. Like my mom's came out a while ago and mine came out a while ago. And I think Maddie, this might be insider information, but my brother's releasing a Christmas album. I think there's a song called Horny for Hanukkah on it.
Well, 'tis the season.
Tis the season. I mean,
mid-Hanukkah now.
Relatable. But that's not a question about you. So
who cares?
This is, by the way, Lindsey and I have known each other since 6th grade?
Eighth grade.
Oh, you moved late.
I moved late.
I didn't have any friends except Nate and Brendan in 6th grade. So yeah.
And it was like the first day of 8th grade.
Yeah, I really had a thing because I mean, you look at Lindsey and you're like, okay, she's gonna be a popular girl. And I was like, I'm getting in there and I'm making sure that doesn't happen. And I meant that in like the best possible way. I'm like, I gotta get in this.
She could turn shitty real fast.
She could turn shitty real fast, which is such a me thing to think too.
But it's also like the reality of the 8th grade.
Yeah, not great. And I was just like, hey, girl from Italy, do you want to be my friend? And you were like, okay.
I literally don't have any of those yet, so please.
Sure. That was in the days when you were like super wholesome and I was just a bridge troll. You were a parent.
But I would say wholesome, but like I laughed at all your jokes because they were funny.
Yeah, 100%.
They weren't offensive to me. They were hilarious.
So there was a point. This is just my favorite. This interview is just going to be us reminiscing. So sometime. My favorite was in 8th grade in math class when it was actually in gym class when it started. That like I was making like base jokes. Like, oh, I got all the way to 3rd base, and you were like, oh, like you're making all these sex jokes, and I was like, well, you're the one who like went there. Like, I didn't say anything about sex. I just said 3rd base, and you got so fucking mad at me, and I still have it somewhere. You wrote me a note that was like, I'm really upset that you would imply that I'm coming up with these dirty jokes because you came up with them, and like you're making me feel bad about having these and I'm not doing anything. And I was writing back like, you know, I'm writing back like, you're being a little pussy. Like, not actually. I don't think I would ever say that then. But like, why are you being such a little bitch about this? Like, it's just a funny joke. Like,
I was like, no, Isabella, I need to project all my weird shit onto this interaction.
It was so fun, and it was so 8th grade, because you're so trying to kind of figure out who you are and defining yourself by that. And my persona at that time was so much like very aggro, like very in your face, of kind of like, I don't give a shit, I hate Rhode Island, I'm gonna talk about sex all the time, I'm 14ish. And I mean, it's not really healthy, but it was, you know, it was a tude.
It's like we all had to carve a space for ourselves.
We did.
You know, like, this is the space I'm in.
I actually had a conversation. Do you remember Nate Sharp?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. So Nate and I were like best friends, right? We went to the 8th grade dance together. I dumped him in the middle of the 8th grade dance the 2 days that we were dating, because Brendan made him jealous enough to ask me, because he pretended to ask me to the dance. It was a fucking nonsense.
It was the 8th grade.
And I remember going up to him a couple summers ago. I mean, he's like fucking married now. He's got dogs. He's doing fine. And I was just like, man, I'm sorry for everything we said to you in 8th grade, because we used to like make comics where you were like depressed all the time because you like told us you had depression, and like sometimes you killed yourself in them, and it was like horrible.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, I don't even remember that. Like, I don't think about that. And I was like, I think about that all the time.
The things we carry of like, surely they still resent me for that. Like, this one time in the 8th grade, I uninvited someone from to a party, like a monster, because I don't even know why this, like, why it's not like there were like a number of seats at my dinner table.
Well, it's such a thing. Like, somebody didn't like them, or like you like weren't gonna have enough goodie. Like, there was always some like petty, stupid little reason.
Yeah. And I was like, I bet Daisy still hates me. Like, she probably has not a clue. Yes! I know! Monster.
So funny.
I'm sure she's doing great. I'm sure she's thriving.
Yeah.
And it's like, Lindsey who?
Every once in a while, she just like wakes up in the middle of the night. She's like, Lindsey invited me to her birthday. Uninvited me to her birthday party. I don't know why. So you, I know you have kind of both a solo career, and you're also part of a band called Visiting Wine. Your first album, self-titled, came out in 2018, and you released an album earlier this year. That
right
was
on the cusp of.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, that must have been kind of crazy, because I know you guys were scheduling a release party, like a big kind of blowout in March, and then you guys had a tour lined up. So I imagine COVID's really changed, really affected what you thought this year was going to look like for that album release.
Yeah, it was like we were about to play like the biggest shows we'd ever played. We like got into this venue that we'd never really had like access to, and they were slowly starting to like take local acts seriously, and we were like, this is going to be our shot to show them that like there's a really good local spirit for music in the city, and we're going to sell out 2 nights in a row. It's going to be awesome. We sold out one of the nights, and we were like, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And I think we had to cancel it like a week before or something because everything shut down.
Yeah.
And it was this really weird feeling of like, at the time nobody knew how long this was going to last. Everyone thought it was like, we tried to reschedule it for August because that's as long as we thought this thing was going to take.
No, that's, 100%.
And so you think it's going to be just a couple weeks and it's like a fun vacation. And then I think like towards the middle of the summer, it started to become very clear, like, you got to start like making stuff again. Like, hey, remember that light inside of you?
Yeah. Remember, you can't be on pause for this long anymore.
Mm-mm.
No, I mean, I think it's been such a weird year and like I genuinely say like such a weird year because there have been good things that have happened within the year, or there have been bad things that have come more to light because of the situation we're in now. People have been able to like speak out more and dedicate more time to, so like good things have kind of come out of this place. But that me and Troy went to Europe for in January, right? Or in like December, early January. It's great. We had such a great time. We got in a fight on the first day.
Classic.
Like halfway through, and I was like, fuck it. And I went to Scotland for a couple days, and then I came back and we were totally fine. Great. But no, honestly, like such a fun trip. And he was he sponsored it. He was like very, very lovely. But I got back from that trip, and literally the day I got back from work, I got laid off. Which was just like, and then I accidentally backed into an old man with my car, which was like the worst thing you could possibly do with a car. And he's fine, thank God, but like it was scary, and he had to, we had to call an ambulance and stuff. So like just a terrible, no good, very bad day in general.
Yeah, 100%.
The old man. But I think about it now, and I'm like, actually ended up like, first of all, that job would have ended when the pandemic started because our job was placement and there wasn't any placement to do. And because I had the time early on to figure out how like unemployment worked and stuff like that, I was like 1 month ahead of the curve for everyone doing unemployment and stuff. And it opened it up for me to be able to work on a lot of more creative projects and to do freelancing and stuff. So like it ended up being this kind of blessing in disguise. And like that's the thing, it's like we've been able to kind of work on these creative projects and stuff, but it also doesn't negate the fact that this year has been fucking terrible and people are dying because of COVID, and like police brutality is still going on, and people, it's just like, it's weird how there's been these kind of moments of reflection or moments where we're trying to kind of blossom out within this. But the situation itself is so inherently bad that it's hard to even be like, and I'm grateful for COVID for doing this, because I'm not,
No. And that's exactly like, you can still have like the end result can still be good. Like you can still wrestle this thing. You can still wrestle joy out of this thing, or like wrestle productivity out of this thing, but like the thing is still terrible.
Exactly.
And I think I have, it's like that feeling of like, sometimes throughout the year, I've sort of been battling with this idea of like, well, I am a pretty hopeful person, but I've had a real sort of like come to Jesus moment of like, sometimes though, saying that things are okay and that things are better is just flippant, and it's just like not productive at all. When like if people send Christmas cards and they're like, everything was great, 2020 was awesome, it just feels like, well, where are you? What world are you living in? Like, what book are you reading?
Like it's the level, and I relate so deeply to that, because it's that level of balancing being hopeful and being positive in a constructive way, in a like, okay, we're gonna like fucking make it through this, versus that kind of toxic positivity of like, you can turn any situation into a good situation. And it's like,
Everything's a blessing. You're like, is
people
it?
are on their deathbeds right now? Like, tell that to their face.
Yeah. That's been an interesting thing for Visiting Wine, because all of the music is like so hopeful and it's so rooted in this spirit of like abundance and goodness, and so many of our songs are about like friendship and joy. And it's been really interesting, the like some people have reached out and said like this has been really helpful for me throughout this time, but it's also been really hard at times to make music.
Yes.
Because it feels like the thing that I'm supposed to do as a musician is like bear witness to the world.
Yes.
And say things that are true and say things that are useful. And right now, bearing witness necessitates like ugly truth.
Pain.
And really painful things. And it feels very like, but my brand. And so it's been hard. My brand.
Luckily, it fits into my brand of like, everything's shit, but like, let's laugh about it.
Finally, I can say things are a trash fire and be right.
I mean, this is the thing too, because it is totally true. It's like, you are trying to, and I think actually that's kind of part of where this idea came from, because there's an element of you want to do something creative, you want to keep making art, but also you're like, this seems so frivolous right now. Like, it doesn't seem like it means anything, but it does. Like, artists are a huge part of the community, and participating in art and making art is bringing people joy right now. And so part of this is to showcase like, yeah, first of all, it is a bitch. There is a lot of conflict about making art right now. But second of all, you can still make art and find joy in art, and that's totally fine. Look at all these people who are doing it. Also go support them, because everyone's broke right now.
Yes, please.
But the thing, I'm so interested to talk about Visiting Wine a little bit, because you guys have such a cool sound. You have such like a folk sound, great harmonies, great musicality. Obviously it's music, but you know, like great, like
it's definitely in the room. It's definitely music.
But great, you know, kind of instrumentation, and it's all produced so well. And I think there's a lot of influence, unless I'm fucking nuts. I like to think as a religion major, I can pick up on some of these things, but there's a lot of influence, I think, spirituality within this. A lot of, I mean, when I was listening to Naomi, I assumed it was about Naomi. Like, cool, great, amazing. That makes me feel smart.
Not crazy, very smart.
Thank you.
And it's a real biblical deep cut, and so it's
yes, and that's
my favorite.
I want to talk about, because I think that there's a little bit of a kind of, and I don't want to say this in a I think there's a little bit of a taboo around talking about being a religious person when you're also like a liberal person who, like, you know, doesn't hate gay people and like very progressive and, you know, still supports people smoking weed, you know, like there's I think there's a weird thing when people are like, oh yeah, like I believe in God, and you're like, do you?
Right.
Why?
Something shuts down in them and they're like, I've heard all I need to hear.
I have had friends in the past, and I don't know if they'd say it now, but friends in the past talking about it originally, where they were just like, I just don't understand how somebody smart could believe in any of this stuff. And the response to that being like, I know it's pretty dumb, but like, and I kind of wanted to speak to that in terms of like, that's part of your guys' brand. That's part of your guys', I don't want to say like messaging, like you're like proselytizing, but like
my brand,
but it's part of your brand in a way that's it's finding kind of joy and strength in these moments biblically or from spirituality. And what's that been like in terms of making your brand as like a millennial in this modern era?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I'll say it in one way and then see if I
agree with yourself.
Yeah. Like, I'm gonna take this plane up into the air and see if I can land it.
Yeah.
So something that I think about a lot when writing music is like what I'm gonna start in a different place.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Christian music that's really bad.
Yes.
Like really lame.
Yes.
And I think that it's really easy to like sometimes every now and again this is maybe like the petty Christian part of me that's like, I'm gonna write a worship song and just like see if I can do it. Like one of the like traditional, you have like a biblical word bank. Most Christian songs, like you can use only so many, there's like a limited set of imagery. There's a limited number of chords you can use. There's just like
the big screen with the guitar at the front of the chapel.
Yep.
People
and
long.
Right, exactly. It has to be in a key that's accessible to the people. Like the capital P people. But I think they're like something that I'm cognizant of when I'm writing music, or at least I write songs about all kinds of things, and then I edit the one, like I choose the ones that whose themes I want actually stuck in people's heads.
Yeah.
Because I think that musicians have a responsibility to like if you're a person who can write an earworm, then it's your job to make sure that the things that are in people's ears are like good for their souls.
Like maybe not blurred lines.
Right. Like if you have the ability
to be stuck in my head all day just because I said the name of it.
Yeah. And so that's something that I think about a lot when it comes to like what songs come to Visiting Wine, what songs are put in the album, or like what kinds of things do I want stuck in people's heads.
Yeah.
Like if I could sing songs over the people and over myself, what feels important, what feels useful. Yeah. And I think the thing that I get most excited about when it comes to like music and particularly live shows is this idea of like, I have experienced so much joy as a person of faith. Like church has been uncharacteristically not traumatizing for me. Yeah. And I know that that's not an experience that a lot of people can relate to. For a lot of people, the church has caused an immense amount of pain, and faith and like, the people who call themselves Christians have caused other people an immense amount of pain.
Dogmatic kind of human versions of Christianity or religion in general.
Exactly. And the thing that I get really excited about is like creating a live show and creating an album that like allows people to access safely those experiences without the baggagey language, without feeling like they're being proselytized. Because like it's not my job to make someone believe in Jesus. It's my job to like give them the feeling of belonging and the feeling of acceptance and the feeling of joy.
That. Kind of essentially taking if I'm, picking up what you're laying down, the idea of like what it should feel like to take joy in Christianity without the language, without forcing the Christianity part. You're kind of like, what it is to be a Christian in theory should be, bringing a sense of joy and harmony and belonging to our neighbors. And so being able to get that message without being like, and this is why you're bad. I think that's really thoughtful.
And I think like, because realistically, the language that we use for faith, like it's just sort of like the basket that humans have created to hold this thing that cannot be described. Yeah. And so all of the language, while it is very helpful and accessible to me, like it's very useful. It's a very, like the old prayers that I have grown up with and like scripture, I love it. And I think it's awesome. It's also just a crust. Yeah. And the goodness is like the thing inside of it. It's like the ham and the cheese. And the actual words of scripture are just the bread.
Yeah.
And so it feels like if we can strip off the things that are unhelpful and leave the things that are helpful, like that's sort of the point.
I think that's so nice. And I think that I think it speaks so much to, there are so many people of faith, of different, versions of faith, that are coming to God or gods in whatever capacity they can access that. And to take away, like you were kind of saying, the dogma of it, take away and just be like, I'm creating Christian themed music that is about love and acceptance and stuff like that, without, there's not really a it's just like, and here's my experience.
Yeah.
Did it make you feel some joy too? Amazing. And there's not a caveat to that. There's not a, and now do this.
Yeah. There's no entrance exam. There's no, you have to feel comfortable with this language to feel comfortable here. It's like, you're here, we're here.
We're just having a good time.
Yeah.
And I think that's so interesting, because I think there are so many Jewish musicians who have kind of been doing that for years. Like Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah is so Jewish. There are a lot of songs you can kind of break down, but because there's less of a kind of proselytizing or missionary like language to when you're just talking about like a faith or scripture or something like that, kind of in its base, it doesn't feel as, and essentially, I mean, you guys are doing that. You guys are making music that stems from a place of faith that does not have an objective except to be good music.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's like, please God, let us make good music. Yeah. And it's like coming from the same well.
Great.
The what?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was interrupting you as you were talking about I was just going to say your music's great. Like, I was, slightly apprehensive that I'd start listening to it and being like, this is my friend. But no, it's really, really fucking good. It's not, it's just like, I mean, it's listening to Mumford and Sons that are like a very, and obviously very different than Mumford and Sons, but like putting on an album of music that you're just like, oh, this is really good and folky and like pump up and exciting. And then you listen to the words and I'm kind of like, oh, I get all these references because I'm like,
right. And that's something that I also love. It almost feels like the point is not to trick people into understanding biblical imagery, but it feels a little bit like you can access it on whatever level you want. It's like a choose your own adventure. Like if you are really into the like, oh, I get that that's a Naomi reference, or I get that the reference in By the Water is like a scene from the Chronicles of Narnia. It's like a C.S. Lewis, Aslan and Lucy conversation. And like if you want that, if that's helpful for you, take it. If that's not helpful for you and you just want to like bathe in the imagery, cool. It's like whatever you need. Leave a penny, take a penny.
It's like, when you watch, and I'm making an assumption that you and I have a similar shared experience here, but it's like, when you're watching a movie and like you're like, oh my God, it's a Jesus reference. Like, I know this is just like someone dies like this and you're like, oh God, so heavy-handed. Versus when like something is kind of like, here's guilty confession, I really like the movie Angels and Demons. I think it's really fun. I think it's,
I have not seen it.
Oh, okay. That's so it's essentially the sequel to the Da Vinci Code. And it's Ewan McGregor being a hot pope. And it's fun because there's so much religious like references in there, but it's sort of like National Treasury and like things are kind of clever, right? You're just like, ooh, versus like fucking Mother, and I'm like, I get it, man. I get it. Stop, please. Yeah. I don't care anymore. I don't like being hit over the head with stuff in general. It's bad writing. That's the thing. I think most Christian music is badly written.
Yeah. There's this, I think it might be a Martin Luther quote of like,
it's my boy, Marty.
Hey, of a Christian shoemaker doesn't need to make shoes with little crosses on them. He just needs to make good shoes.
Yeah.
And I've always loved that of like, oh yeah, like Christianity means like, it doesn't mean that everything has to have a cross or have the word, like the explicit word Jesus Christ in it, or like sneakily have like, oh, if you look at it this way, it's the blood of Christ. It's like, it just has to be good and come from sort of like that place, that
And then
place.
not negating that good can't come from other places. That good can come from Judaism. That good can come from Islam. That good can come from anywhere. But the job of a Christian person just to put good into the world, you know, not necessarily tell everyone else how to make their shoes.
Exactly.
I
think other faiths are traditionally other faiths are traditionally better at that than Christians are.
I agree. And I think
I have always go ahead.
No, continue.
I was just gonna say the Jewish I don't remember if this is the right word, but I think the Jewish tradition of midrash, of it's sort of like religious fan fiction.
Oh yeah, I mean this kind of
That's so amazing that because it requires you basically go into the Bible stories and like write about the things that happened in your own language. That's so important.
My part of my study in school was ancient rabbinic hermeneutics. Yeah, right. It would be getting into like, you know, well, like if you look at the story of Lilith, right? There is no textual canonical Lilith story. But some fucking rabbi at some point was like, well, there has to be a reason that there were two women. So let me tell you about this first woman who was fucking rad, except, you know, like bad, but like, you know, or well, Adam named all the animals in the garden, so that means he fucked all of them. And another rabbi being like, no!
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And it's so much. It is, I think that Judaism and other religions in general are much more comfortable with the kind of questioning aspect. And there's a thing in Christianity about faith, people using faith as an excuse not to question it. Because you're just like, it's here and I believe in it, so it's true. And it's like, yeah, but what does that mean? Like, if you believe that this is so pertinent today and is like a living document, what does it mean today? How would you apply these things? Also, the translations from Arabic or from Hebrew or from Greek, like what version of this text are you reading? Are you maybe mistranslating it from the Aramaic? Are you maybe mistranslating it from the Hebrew because Hebrew didn't have a lot of vowels in it? You know, like,
yeah.
And the fucking Jews have been doing this for years, where they're just like, what's the letter in this? We don't know. So it could mean X and X and X. And because it's always been part of that tradition, like this, the studiousness of it and the engagement with the text, it doesn't seem as, I think, again, there are very conservative members of any religion. Totally. But I think for the most part, it has allowed Jewish people to be more liberal and on board with scientific discoveries and thoughtful about the practices that and how it works in the world today.
Because they're not like their foundation of their faith is not threatened by new information.
Exactly. It's not faith. It's not inherently faith-based.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good way of saying that. And I think I've gotten super obsessed with like breaking down scripture and understanding the context and understanding all that stuff. That is so fascinating to me, because I think that there's this view, like you just articulated, that in order to be the most faithful, you have to suspend your intellect, you have to suspend your reason, and just, you know, what literally words on the text on the page, what are they saying? That's what they mean.
Yeah.
But I think that there's actually, the more that I dig into this stuff, it seems like there's actually like, it's to me more faithful to see the thing in its entirety.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like, it's the same way that like you get to know a person. If a person says, if you just look at one single text that one person sent to another person, it tells you like a little bit about that person.
Yeah.
But you have to understand physically, where were they? How old was this person? Who were they writing to? What relationship do they have to that person, in order to fully understand
And also,
the
is
person
this
you're hearing from?
person texting on behalf of another
Or somebody else.
and you're getting their version of the events that have happened? Like, historical context is so important for these things. It's super, super interesting. And also the fact that, like, what was picked as the canonical gospels are four gospels of many, 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 many gospels that were written.
Mhm.
I actually, if you haven't read the Lost Scriptures, I think that's what it's called, which is it's a compendium of apocryphal gospels and non-canonical gospels. The infancy gospel of Thomas is like the fucking shit.
I have heard about that, of like, you know, Jesus's early days.
Oh my god. Like, it's straight up like, oh, sorry, you like fucking messed up my clay birds, drop dead. And then they do. And then people are like, Jesus, you can't do that. And Jesus is like, I can do what I want. There is literally a point where Joseph is like, Jesus, you can't do this stuff anymore. It's really stressing people out. And Jesus is like, you're not my dad. You're not my real dad. Like, I'm not. And I think it's just, I honestly, there's something to me, and you read Lamb too. There's something to me that's so lovely about this idea of a child with godlike powers that doesn't know the consequences of using them and essentially has to be taught to be human by the humans around him. There's something actually very, like, people were like, well, this is too scary, we don't want our Jesus doing that. And I'm like, I want my Jesus fallible. Like, I'm not necessarily a hard ascribed Christian at this point in my life, you know, like, I identify more strongly with my Jewish background. But when I engage in gospel texts, I like to do it within a context. I like to, and like, I very much believe that Jesus was a living person and maybe a prophet, and or maybe a son of God. I don't know. Like, my whole situation, this is the way I think of it. I like to consume as much as I can about everything because I do believe in God or a higher power of some kind. And what I believe is I am not full of myself enough to think I know what's right. So I will consume everything with joy and interest, being like, this is one possibility of how the world works, which is a cop-out, as some of my friends would say. Honestly, I don't.
I think it's also perspective. Like, I think it's better. It's so much better than the alternative of basically saying, I have all of the information that I need. I think that I fully understand. I think that if you think that you understand God's design and his intention, then you need to start over.
You need to
because
reset button.
got it. Like, the only thing that is knowable is the fact that we know so little.
Yeah.
And that we better sort of like spend a good portion of our time just be like learning how to be really comfortable with knowing that, like, we know the tip of the iceberg and there's literally so much stuff underneath that we will never know.
Yeah. Did you watch Good Omens?
Mm-mm.
Oh, Lindsay, I think you'll love Good Omens.
What is Good Omens?
Good Omens is it's short too. I think it's 6 or 8 episodes on Amazon. It is the story of an angel and a demon who agree at a certain point in history that it's kind of exhausting to like be going to all the different places at any given time. So they'll just sort of like balance each other out. So like, you know, if someone has to go to Damascus to do a miracle, they might as well like help the demon out and like do his temptation too real quick. Like we're just kind of gonna so the kind of impetus, the kind of catalyst of this is that the Antichrist has come to Earth But Aziraphale, who's the angel, and Crowley have been living on Earth so long that they don't really want Earth to end. So they decide to help to raise the Antichrist together so that it will be a neutral third party. And then everything goes to shit. So it's essentially like the 48 or 3 days before the end of the world. Frances McDormand plays the voice of God. David Tennant's Crowley. Michael Sheen is Aziraphale. It's just really good.
That was wonderful.
And like I said, it's short. It's only like there's a witch in it. There's several witches in it. There's a witch finder general. It's a delight.
That sounds excellent.
I think you will really like it, and then I think you should text me about it because I want to hear what you think.
Yes.
Also, the angel and the demon are probably in love. Whatever.
Good.
I'm gonna ask you some dumb questions. Do you want me to ask some dumb questions?
Yeah, let's do dumb questions.
Okay. Would you rather sneeze cheese or have your tears be made of chocolate?
Sneeze cheese. I cry a lot, and not like because I'm sad. I happy tears, sad tears. I cried at the Land Before Time. Like that would just be I would be covered in chocolate all the time. So cheese, sneeze, please.
Liquid cheese or solid cheese? I just realized this.
Definitely like the kind that comes from a squeezy can. Yeah, like the stuff that you're like, I'm just gonna discard this. This is
correct. Would you rather eat broccoli flavored ice cream or a meat flavored cookie?
Broccoli flavored ice cream or a meat flavored cookie? Meat flavored cookie. I feel like I can probably get behind the. Well, talk to me about texture. Would it just be like, would the texture be cookie?
I think on both of them, the texture would be off. Do you know what I mean? So like it's a cookie texture with meat flavor, and it's an ice cream texture with broccoli flavor.
I think the broccoli flavor is like not strong enough. It would be like the flavor of broccoli outside the context of broccoli feels like it would just be kind of damp.
That's true.
And I think that would be more disquieting than the meat flavored cookie.
I think a meat flavored cookie, the texture of it would really freak me out. Unless it was like they already have like bacon baked goods.
That's kind of where I'm at, yeah.
But what if it was like
ground
beef flavored cookie?
Like taco meat flavored cookie.
Yeah. Did you change your answer, or are you still there?
No, I think I'm still there.
Okay.
I think I could get behind. I could choke that down, but I would have a really hard time with the.
Gross. What two animals would you combine together if you could combine them together? Play God, if you will.
I think just like to have out in the universe, or like as a pet.
I think just to have in the universe.
Okay.
You could think of it, and then like now that's in the universe, I take it as my pet. But I don't think it's necessary.
It doesn't. I don't have to like domesticate this new thing.
You're not in charge of it. You might just wreak havoc.
I think an elephant and a weasel. So it would just be an enormous weasel with like really big ears. It was like a really big and long weasel.
That's a choice.
I just think it would be interesting.
If you had a robot and you could assign it to do any task that you programmed, but it can only do one task, but it will do it, you know, mm-hmm. What task would you program the robot to do?
Laundry. It's my least favorite thing in the world.
I love doing laundry.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I feel like
it's feeling like a very polarizing task.
Yeah, I agree. It's like washing dishes.
Yes, which I love washing dishes.
Washing dishes really freaks me out. I like washing.
You heard it here first.
I like washing like plates, but I don't like washing like cutlery. really
Because you have to do that whole thing where you like hold a bunch of it. Well, do you do it one at a time, or do you hold a bunch and sort of like?
Why would you do that? You're not getting them clean.
Cleanliness in my home. I've got a bit of a low standards. Like they're clean enough.
I live with someone else, so I gotta.
Yeah, so do I. Sorry, Kim.
Friend, bad roommate. What kind of soup would you choose to swim in?
I think some sort of like a chicken and dumpling soup. I think there's like something fun about being able to like, if everything is life size as it is in my mind, then like it's kind of warm, it's kind of creamy, but you can like, there are these big dumplings that you can hold on to and maybe even like swim inside.
Oh, delicious.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Can't wait.
No, I was just thinking about swimming inside a big dumpling. That was what that was. I just really like the idea. Do you have a favorite memory of us from like high school or middle school?
The thing that I think about often is favorite.
Or something that sticks out.
Something that sticks out to me is 8th grade language class. I say language because I think it was Spanish, but I think at some point I was taking German and then switched halfway through the year and I didn't know anything. Yeah. And I did so poorly on those first couple tests because I was like, I have no context for what is taking place here. And I remember playing Kill the Bunny.
Fuck, we used to play Kill the Bunny.
Best game. And like passing notes and writing 1-sentence stories which is probably why I didn't really get better at Spanish that year.
I didn't get better at Spanish either. Also, that was the first year I ever got a B in anything, as in like for a letter grade on a report card.
It was Spanish?
No, it was math.
Oh.
You
still got an A in that class?
What?
You still got an A in Spanish that year?
I actually think I cheated a lot because I think that Nate was good at Spanish.
Oh, yeah.
And I sat next to Nate.
Yeah. I just wailed in my badness.
There are times, do you ever, people are, like they do that, like put a finger down. It's like, have you ever cheated? And I was like, are there people who have never cheated? Not on a part.
Like on a test?
On it, yeah.
I feel like I was too nervous. I don't think I have at least on a test.
I feel like I cheated so much at different points in my life. Like I never cheated on anything that mattered.
Sure.
And I think it actually kind of fucked with me when I was older. Like I was taking Russian in college, and I was so nervous about not cheating because I was like, you're an adult now, like don't cheat. But then like, someone would have like all the verb conjugations written on the side of their paper during a test, and I'd be like, you can't look at, like, people are gonna think you looked at it because you're not good at Russian. You like, I would psych myself out to the point that I was always constantly nervous about being caught cheating. But then we took like a sociology class that I would just keep in high school, where I would just keep my book open in my desk all the time. I can't, like, that class was so dumb. I didn't feel bad about it. I wonder if that makes me like a sociopath.
No, I don't think so. I think you've been nice to animals in the times that I've known you. So I think that ship has sailed. Like, I think if you were a sociopath, you'd know by now.
That's true. I talked to my brother about this once. I was like, do you think we're clinical narcissists? And he's like, no. Like,
if you're asking that question, then I think that the answer is no.
That's exactly what he said. Oh man, that's so funny. Okay. Would you rather have the Imperial March play every time you walk into, like, through a doorway?
Mm-hmm.
or have a little orgasm every time you hear the word pancake?
I'm going to say the latter because I like surprise parties. And if I could never attend another surprise party again, that would be sad because as soon as the person we were surprising got close, well, it's like when I cross a threshold into a room.
Yes.
It still feels risky. I think the latter because I don't really interact with the word pancakes all that often.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have yeah.
So I think that would be rare enough.
Yeah, like I feel like you kind of, I mean, you could make a concerted effort and be like, today's my Sunday, I'm gonna go sit at the International House of Pancakes for an hour.
Oh.
But I sometimes will ask that question to men and they'll be like, obviously the first one, I can't clean up that much. And I'm like, that's so much worse. Disgusting.
It's foul.
Anyway, your orgasms are disgusting. No matter who you are watching this,
disgusting.
Bad. Just nice. It's a nice thing to do sometimes. No shaming. No, we're getting to the end of this interview. I'm gonna ask you about, man, did I not even ask you enough questions about yourself? Was this just me and
no, this was a tennis match. It was awesome. I mean, a tennis match suggests that there's a winner, and that's not the case. It was a tennis scrimmage.
It was a scrimmage. But I want to end on a couple, so I want to make sure before we leave, you get to plug anything you're working on. I know you actually not too long ago released a single. It was Heavy on Me. That was April. I don't know. Yeah, geez, that seems like that long ago. Which is fucking excellent, and everyone should check it out on Spotify or on Bandcamp, so you can support Lindsey directly. But I was wondering if there are any things that we should be looking for coming out for you, for visiting wine, and also if there are any independent artists or musicians or people that you want to plug because you're excited about what they're doing.
Ooh, yes. So we're laying pretty low in terms of like releasing new things right now. We're in sort of like a hibernate and write moment. So nothing in the immediate future that's coming out. But definitely one independent artist that I've been really excited about lately is Izzy Heltai. And he's a New England based artist. It's IZZYHELTAI. Really amazing folk artist. It's been so great to see him sort of blossom in his musicianship over the past couple of years, and he's just putting out better and better stuff every time, and it's been so good for my heart to hear his stuff lately.
Izzy Heltai, do you know it's at should we follow him on Instagram? Is that where the best?
That's probably that's the spot.
Follow Instagram. And Valley Wine to stay on their updates and
big time.
Obviously, she just released a Christmas album, and Jesse Terry's releasing a Christmas album, and Barnaby Bright's releasing a Christmas album. So stay tuned for a trifecta of really good Christmas albums.
Yeah.
And we'll end on my December question, which is, what is like a favorite wintry or like holiday memory that you have?
That's a great question. I think my family, like, we moved around a bunch when we were like, obviously you know this, but like my family moved around a ton, and so there was always the sense of like, I don't have like when I think about Christmas, it's not like, oh, this smell and this like house that we lived in for a bunch of years. So I think when I think about like the holidays and Christmas, it's like people and food, because those were the things that were always very consistent throughout the years. And so I think specifically about like pumpkin pie and just my parents around the same dinner table that we've had for like 15 years. And just like that thing that the person that you melt into when you're just like with people who know you very well in the holidays, and like literally melting into the same couch that you had when you were 12 and sort of melting into that person, that feels very just like safe and warm. And I'm really looking forward to a little bit of melting time at the end of this year.
That's so nice. And you're gonna be able to go home for the holidays?
Yes.
That's so good. That's so
I'm gonna drive down, see my parents.
Please say hi to your parents for me, and Travis, if he's gonna be there too.
No, Travis is gonna be in Texas, so it's gonna be like a
Travis to fuck himself. Just
I'll make sure that he knows.
No, just kidding. Seriously, have a great holiday. That's so nice. I like that a lot. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I actually am not sure. I was going to say Happy Hanukkah, but I'm not sure if you're going to be seeing this after Hanukkah.
Oh, yeah.
It'll depend on when I can figure out how to make a banner. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of TBD with IRV. Lindsey Sampson, everybody visiting wine. Follow them on Instagram and Facebook and wherever, and Spotify and wherever albums can be sold on the internets. You guys, do you have a physical album people could buy?
Yeah, we do. On visitingwine.com.
On visitingwine.com. Fuck yes. Amazing. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much to Lindsey for being here. And yeah, make sure to keep creating great art, keep consuming art, keep supporting art, and take those little moments of joy that you find and hold on to them, because it's a weird time right now, but it's still so possible and so real to find, beautiful things and create beautiful things right now. So have a lovely whatever day it is today, probably a Tuesday or a Thursday, and take care, everybody. I know.